Hey, you see what I'm seeing?
I am. This is some freaky stuff, and I like it.
I can't move.
Hey guys, are you ready to record? I'll be downstairs.
The Heed the Call podcast. Just remembered there's an actual football game to talk about.
All right. That's right. Thank you, Jason. Welcome to Heed the Call from New Orleans at the Heed House here at Underdog Manor. I'm Dan Hanzus with Marc Sessler, my co-host. Hi, Marc.
Hi, Dan.
How are you? Why are you looking
well.
at me like that?
Why are you looking at me that way?
I just got lost in your eyes.
That was very strange.
Yeah. Here we are.
It's the house is still a beautiful historical mansion. I think the experience is taken on sort of day 4 of bachelor party kind of energy.
Oh, yeah.
Where there's just stuff everywhere, but we're having an excellent time.
Yeah, you're starting to see, some of the seams here in the house, Heed House. Someone, I don't want to say who, and I can't say who because I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
We got like 10 people staying in the house. Somebody got chilly. And raise your hand amongst the crew. Somebody turned off the air conditioner. Now, I understand if you want to maybe turn up the air conditioner, the setting from, say, 68 to 69 to 70.
Yeah.
But to just hit the off button, that's some sociopath shit.
I want to believe it was an error, not intentional.
Okay.
Because I think most of us woke up in like, a moist, exoskeleton.
State.
Yeah.
And then I come outside, we get dressed, and I come outside, and I take a look at the thermostat. It's 78 degrees in the house, and it's still off, and I just had to bang it up.
It's not 78 outside right now.
Jason, is it possible? And again, we're all friends here. We're family, really, here at Underdog Manor, that after we had to eject you from the show yesterday.
I sabotaged you?
That you a sabotage maneuver in response.
Attack, deny everything. I'm going with Trump's methods of denial here, man. But I will say this. I had no problems whatsoever with my AC. I have a totally separate thermostat in my room.
Right, because you're like in a different area code on the third floor.
You really are.
Pretty much, yeah.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's not even connected to the house somehow. I think when you go
You're
up
paying
my
your
stairs,
own Airbnb rent.
Yeah, I go into a different portal, like to a different time and space.
All right.
That's not megalomaniac enough.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Let's talk about the game. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the game. We're here for the Super Bowl. Oh, who's there? Oh,
look at this.
Oh, my goodness. Here they are. Pee-wee's Playhouse style. Watch out for the glass table. Marc didn't. Conor Orr of Sports Illustrated and Jourdan Rodrigue of The Athletic, and of course, both of them, family here at Heed the Call. What's up, guys? Welcome to Heed House.
This headset was enlarged to massive proportions. I just want to point that out. That's amazing, Jason.
He's got a giant head. He's a larger-than-life figure.
Is that Marc's coffee table?
This is the famous glass
I don't
coffee
know
table.
if that's the title I want to use for it eternally, but it was for a brief amount of time. Almost.
I'm going to speak with Underdog to see if we could get this packed up, because it's like a museum piece at this point in terms of like the history of our show. Yeah, right there is where he fell in slow motion and then knocked over a can of nitro coffee that looked like the deep maroon color of blood. And for a moment, I thought, it was over.
Unlike Jason, I cannot deny, but nor do I recall most of it. So, did you guys take the same public bus here?
I walked.
You walked.
Yeah. Don't I look glowy and glistening? Humidity.
In a good way.
I took an Uber, and the guy was playing Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I was like, I just wanted to thank you for being exactly what I thought you'd be.
Right up Orr Boulevard.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Also, I didn't actually walk.
Oh, you didn't? Yes, Justin.
I just find it really convenient.
Did he just hit the grave digger
Twice?
twice?
Yeah. No,
I will be inserted into show.
No, I was going to cut the first one because it wouldn't have made sense.
No, now you can't.
No.
Now you can't.
I just thought it was really cool and convenient how Jordan's laptop was sitting there for her, because this was not totally
this
staged.
I have an explanation for that.
Yes.
My Uber driver actually provided me the explanation for that. I got into the Uber this morning and he saw the location that he was driving me and he said, "Oh, you're going to the haunted house."
Yeah.
So that's how my
Explains so
laptop
much.
arrived. Is I expressed this into the void to the ghost, and he doth provided. Like,
That all checks out.
yeah.
Take that, Justin.
No, it's
about
great.
embracing
Great
that.
explanation.
The only logical explanation is that.
And it's so logical that all the locals find it hilarious when people come willingly to stay in a haunted home in the middle of this neighborhood. And the spirits will chase us back to Los Angeles. and beyond.
That actually has been
Yeah.
my concern. It's like none of us have reported feeling anything extremely dark. There's been a lot of renovations. You probably chase these guys out, but can they attach to you and then fly back with you to LAX and to your home?
Yeah.
That's sort of what I've been thinking about in the middle of the night. I don't like that scenario.
Kind of excited about that.
Well,
It's all in play. Well, now you're here, and it's attached to you as well. All right, as we promised with the Zum Job, there's a game. It is the Kansas City Chiefs going for a historic. I got to pay Pat Riley if I say it, but he'll have to find me first. Three-peat. They could become the first team ever to win 3 Super Bowl titles. Sessdog was all fired up at one of the taverns yesterday. He's like, "Oh, it's not actually 3 straight," and he's like carrying the water for the Packers. The Packers won 5.
I didn't say not actually.
all right.
I think that's been
God forbid
glossed
the
over.
Packers don't get more glory talk about their past. But Mark, I guess you're right. There has been teams, and I think your Browns in some deep AFL scenario won
You want to
multiple-
talk about
Yeah.
Jason's other universe? That's where that occurred.
I don't know what that means. What do you mean?
But that Browns winning multiple
Oh.
titles is literally from like a century ago at this point. So
But in terms of since the Super Bowl era began, which would be, I guess, 1967, no team has won 3 in a row. And that's what the Chiefs are trying to do, standing in their way. And let's start with this team. This is the Philadelphia Eagles. What a team. What a roster. They have a coach. What a team builder. What a running back. What a quarterback. There's also a head coach on the team. Jourdan, let's start this preview of Super Bowl 59 by talking about how did the Eagles win this game.
We kind of saw it when they played the Commanders, right? They reached their maximum power. They reached the apex of their abilities as probably the deepest roster in the NFL right now. All phases were humming. Everyone was playing up to their potential, from Saquon Barkley to Jalen Hurts. Even though his passing yards haven't looked the sexiest all season, he still can execute the game plan depending on which version of themselves they want to be that week. And that's not even to start on Vic Fangio, who I could just opine about for hours, and I won't do that to you guys,
This is a 6-hour preview with 4.5 hours for you talking about
Just on Vic Fangio. Oh,
It's all been building to this moment for Heed the Call.
I'm
with
so
Jourdan.
ready.
Yeah.
I'm going to need a moist
The runway
towel.
is clear. Yes.
I'm going to need a moist towel in a private room.
Yes, Vic Fangio, the DC, he's been revitalized this year, obviously, after a down year in Miami where it didn't seem like he wanted to be there, and all of a sudden he's the dude again that everyone envies having.
Yeah, candidate for Assistant Coach of the Year. One of also the award for me and Mark's favorite coordinator this year, I think, probably, right,
in the
Mark?
running. In the running.
I think
Oh, there's
him and-
competition.
I think Conor and Vic are actually friends.
We grew up not at the same time, obviously.
Yeah.
2 neighborhoods over. He's a Dunmore guy. I'm a Clark Summit guy, but all in the Scranton universe.
Yeah.
And I will say this: I did a deep dive on his past as a defensive coordinator in high school, and I found it incredibly relevant. If I can just opine for 1 second, on
We have
this.
4.5 hours.
Okay,
of it.
good.
Yeah, we're just
This
warming
is
up.
the Vic time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back then, there were no quarterbacks in the Scranton area at all. It's all these coal mining kids. It's all running game, right? You throw the ball 2 or 3 times a game.
Hell yeah.
But within that, right, every coach is trying
Scranton.
to differentiate themselves. So one offense is wing T, one offense is Houston veer, one offense is, power I, right? And if you extrapolate that out, and I was talking to a bunch of the old coaches that he used to coach against, and one of them made a great point. He's like, Conor, that's the Chiefs. The Chiefs are wing T. The Chiefs are veer. The Chiefs are split back. And that's their running game, to the point where I was talking to a couple of their coaches about this actually today. I got up early after sleeping like 4 hours to go to availability to confirm this for you guys for Underdog.
You're the best,
what the
dude.
Chiefs were doing in that game against the Bills where they scored those 2 touchdowns, one Patrick Mahomes run and one Kareem Hunt run out of the same formation, that's an inverted wishbone from like the 1960s.
Which is very cool in itself.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. But I think the point Conor's making is that Vic Fangio has seen it all at this point.
Yeah.
But what's so interesting is with both of these coordinators, and I think the coordinator battles in this game are one of the most fascinating elements to it, especially for like the real sickos like us four, and I think Jason as well over in the distance, voice of God. It's very cool sitting in the same room as you, by the way. Arizona Diamondbacks hat, love it. The coordinators are so interesting because they're all so uniquely dastardly in their own way, and I kind of lump Matt Nagy in with Andy Reid, obviously, in this way, except for Kellen Moore. He's not very dastardly. Like, I don't see him as sort of this ethos, this vibe, as some of these old heads who are able to basically take things that they saw in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and things that they coached at that time and modernize them and mold them to fit all of these different players that they have who are capable of doing multiple things, in particular on each of these defenses, these hybrid players who are capable of rushing the passer when it's the case of Spags and some of the blitzes he sends, defending the run. They've got really old school linebackers on both teams. And then these young players who are these hybrid like star players, and I say that as the position, not as the description, the hybrid safety corners who are covering these vast areas of the field so you can stay in a zone defense despite whatever the other team is running at you. It's just fascinating to me to watch, and I think that's going to be the fun part of this game, is that chess match.
Though Kellen Moore is less dastardly, he is more Marie Kondo, and I appreciate that very much about him. Like, he took a Eagles offense that was throwing the ball with Jalen Hurts, who wasn't an incredibly reliable quarterback, in the 2022 Super Bowl. I think, A.J. Brown had 145 targets that season. Devonta Smith had something like 120 targets that season. You pare everything down. You simplify. And if you can get the running game going and you can start getting the defense moving the way you want, all these reads become easier for Jalen. They all become one-on-one situations. And so as I'm trying to tell myself in my own life, there's beauty in simplicity, That's what we learned from Marie.
Let's
That's
talk
what
about that, Conor. I'm just kidding.
I'm going to go lay on the couch. Yeah.
I think you cannot allow the Chiefs to be within a one-score possession at the end of the game.
Yes.
Because that's what they do. And they're a pretty unique team. They kind of remind me of like if a relationship works over years and years, you've got to go through a lot of different challenges. If you look at the last 4 or 5 years of the Chiefs, especially on offense, that's what they've done. They've had to kind of be a different type of problem-solving offense each year. And this year, they're like, what they do on offense is they've thrown behind the line of scrimmage at like 27% of the time and had a ton of yards after the catch. And the Eagles' defensive line, I think, are equipped to stop some of that because they've been one of the best teams on defense in that situation. You've got to basically force the Chiefs into labored long drives where they have to use what I think is not as strong as a running game as you'd like. And at that point, get up a couple scores. Last week, again, or when they played the Commanders, they had their turnover rate, like their takeaways were the difference in that game. Can you find 1 or 2 possessions to take away from the Chiefs? Like, this is an Eagles defense. You look at Cooper DeJean, you look at the linebackers, like, I think they can do it. They've got to find one way to make the Chiefs uncomfortable and take them out of this in the fourth quarter.
And that might be playing in a different way than what we've just been talking about with this Vic Fangio system, where it's quite literally death by 1,000 paper cuts. I've talked about it before on this show, where the Chiefs are actually built perfectly to attack this defense in bits and pieces. The way that Patrick Mahomes leads the league in throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage, the way that they have this like vast screen game that Andy Reid's just been cataloging for like 30 years at this point, the way that they are patient, the way that Patrick Mahomes as a scrambler can pick up these easy yards and has in the postseason especially. So the Eagles, to beat the Chiefs, might, first of all, they'll still probably rely on their 4-man rush, but they might have to do some different things with their coverages in order to nullify that space in front of them that often they allow in order to frustrate and infuriate opposing offenses.
Vic said at his press conference yesterday, he's like, when I first got into the league as a defense coordinator, I pressured more than anybody. I could do it again. you know? And it's just like, okay, let's go, old man.
When
Let's see it.
That's like I could do that if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Like,
When Miami played the Chiefs
Sounds like a
last
dare.
year,
my girlfriend goes to another school.
when Miami
She did,
played
though.
the Chiefs last year, Vic Fangio rushed Patrick Mahomes 18 times, more than like any other game. And like they didn't win, but like he unleashed the house on Mahomes. So we'll see if that happens again.
And these teams obviously played in the Super Bowl 2 years ago, right? Which is one of the reasons people are annoyed. Is like, we already saw this. But did we really? Because I think about like what's the differences for the Eagles, and looking at the offensive side of the ball, specifically that game that they get beat narrowly, and they pretty much get beat because of a somewhat fluky Jalen Hurts fumble that gets returned for a touchdown. And then obviously Mahomes has the ankle injury and he comes back and they make the plays as they always do down the end. Down at the end, Chris Jones has a huge hurry in that game that foils their last possession, Philadelphia's last real possession. All that happens. But that game, Jalen Hurts was the best player on the field for the Eagles. He threw 4 touchdowns. He led the team in rushing. He was an absolute beast. Yes.
He was great against Spags Blitz.
Yeah, he was awesome. I remember everyone came out of that game like, wow, that's a tough loss for the Eagles. They had that game, but holy shit, like Jalen Hurts is the future of the league. It hasn't quite like turned into that, although Hurts has continued to be a high-end starter in a lot of ways. But this team is so different. Like their running backs. You guys remember who their running backs were in that Super Bowl?
Wasn't it like Miles Sanders was one of them?
Byron Scott, I think.
Yeah.
And they could not move the ball on the ground. Now you have Saquon Barkley. And it's like,
Oh, Lord.
so you don't
He
have
coming.
now the Jalen Hurts and that offense is different now. And I don't see them throwing it around the yard. But with Barkley there, with this offensive line, he's reached that special place, Barkley, where you know he's going to have a massive run in this game. So it's just a matter like you almost have to just book it. He will have a 50, 60, 70, 80-yard touchdown run in this game. Like he is at that Bo Jackson Tecmo Bowl level. And it's like, how many of them will he have? Or does Spags and the Chiefs defense have the game of their life and shut down Saquon Barkley, which literally no one has been able to do? It's like, not to oversimplify it, but that is so much the key part of this game.
They're so built to be dominant along the offensive line. Obviously, like Jeff Stoutland, remember like Jason Kelce in his retirement speech talked about Jeff Stoutland like over and over. Like he is beloved by his players. He's found a way. Now their line was banged up in the NFC title game. Those guys are practicing fully
And
right
so was
now.
Barkley, by the way. He was limited with a calf injury and still had 3 touchdowns.
Well, and
It's
Kenneth
just like-
Gainwell came in and did a great job, but he's hurt. So that there's a little. The Chiefs are totally healthy. The Eagles have a few little issues, but I think the reason that like you don't need Jalen Hurts to throw the way he did in that other game is just what you said. Like they run the ball 56% of the time. That's vastly more than anyone else. And Saquon Barkley has been dominant when they're winning in the second half. And if they can stay in the game and just be what they were character-wise against Washington, it's like, how do you stop them?
Yeah, I like to overcomplicate things. You guys know this about me by now.
We love it about you.
That's your word.
in life and in football. But I really do think, Dan, to your point, I think this can actually be boiled down to some really simple stuff, which is which team runs the ball better, which team stops the run better, and which team has a lead first. Because if the Eagles get a lead first, then they can stay in their A-plus plan, which is running the damn ball like into everyone's face, including probably people in the stands, and they can stay there. They can live there. Kellen Moore is very happy there if he can just be simple and comfortable in that space. If the Chiefs get a lead first and they find themselves in their A-plus, conversely, defensive plan against a deficit tailing Eagles team, then they can unleash some of these Spagnuolo blitzes. They can actually force Jalen Hurts into passing situations where you're going to want to probably have him passing while scrambling versus stepping up and into his throws like how he was so effective the last time that Spags sent all these blitzes after him in a big game such as this. And so that is what I think it really comes down to is running the ball, stopping the run, and who has the lead first. And it's wild because it's so simple, but there's such a dance that's going to unfold through all of it.
And you don't want, like, I think one of the things that's masked, especially for the Eagles during this run, is like, wow, they've transformed everything, and Mekhi Becton's been kind of a centerpiece of that. But you get the Eagles behind the sticks where they have to start throwing, and Mekhi Becton's isolated against one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles of our generation, aside from Aaron Donald, right? And all of a sudden, Mekhi is a great powerful run blocker, but I do think that there is a weakness there. If he's got to be on an island, if some of these guys have got to be on an island, they've suffered in those situations.
There have been a couple like key takedowns of Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
For that exact reason.
For big losses too. And if Chris Jones finds himself doubled, George Karlaftis is like a postseason machine. He's 3 sacks, 17 pressures just in the postseason. I mean, my goodness, it's like, you're going to have to pick which way to, I guess, allow pressure and which way to mitigate it. And I think this is where also some of the short game that we have not, this is my beef with Kellen Moore, some of the short game that we haven't always seen him go to quickly enough, or some of the consistency and just keep running the ball. You're doing fine. Like, it's not the most efficient thing when you're biting off 2-3 yards per carry, but if you keep Saquon churning, he will go over 100 yards. It is just a fact of this season. And so that's where it's like, okay, the Chiefs, I have no doubt, if they can get into their A+ rush plan, they will get pressure. But I want to see a different plan for Jalen Hurts when he is facing pressure than what we saw in the postseason, especially against the Rams, for example, that were forcing him into these like infuriatingly deep passing situations with middle and long developing plays where he's taking sacks for like 9 and 14 yards because Kellen's dropping him too deep.
It was our same complaint about Joe Brady in the championship game, right, against the Chiefs. And this is what Shane Steichen did really well with Jalen Hurts when they were together and before he left for the Colts. Give him an obvious answer at the line of scrimmage, a pass where you just take 2 steps back and you fire it. I mean, this was the plan when they beat the Giants in the playoffs leading up to that. They had Dexter Lawrence on the other side of the ball. Don't even let him touch Jalen Hurts. Give him the answers at the line of scrimmage. Let him get rid of the ball before it happens. And I would like to see a little bit more of that from Kellen Moore this time.
And the way with the Eagles too, where they're kind of hard to nail down, because the version of the Eagles that we saw in the NFC title game against the Commanders, their A+ game, they're not going to lose. Like, they will win the Super Bowl if they are able to play at that level and have a game script like that. But one of the reasons why sometimes they've been a hard team to figure out, or people that maybe didn't want them to win have been infuriated at times. There's no need to point fingers here. Is that there's been so many other games, including in the playoff run before the NFC title game, where it's like, man, these guys are there to be had, and they've had some head scratching decision making. Obviously, the inconsistency in the passing game, the disappearance of A.J. Brown, almost sometimes like that. We're going to keep giving it to Saquon until he finally breaks one. Like, what is it possible we get a different version? And this is where we get the version where the Eagles aren't humming and then they play right into the Chiefs' hands. It does spook me as someone who's watched football for a long time now, and this is all due respect to Vic and Kellen and the head coach.
I got balls here. I got big balls. I'm Nick Sirianni.
2 weeks, Sessdog, 2 weeks for Steve Spagnuolo and Andy Reid to make sure that the Eagles can't bring their A+ game plan. I have so much belief in that the Eagles, if they think they're going to be able to have their way with their opponent the way they do with Washington, I just don't think it's going to happen. So can they adapt when some of these things get shut down the way they weren't in the NFC title game?
That's why it's clearly the 2 best coaching staffs in the league and the 2 best teams. And I really think so. Like,
can we calm down now? Nick Sirianni is the head of the best coaching staff in football.
The Eagles,
Jesus. He's not even a coach of the year candidate.
The best team building, and he should be. He should be, if anything. Like, I mean, if he goes and wins 2 Super Bowls goes to his 2nd Super Bowl and wins one, like, that tells me that he's doing something
he's got a
right.
great staff and an amazing roster is what he's got.
Okay, but our expectations, like, coach of the year often goes to like someone who exceeds expectations. We'd all just prefer Nick Sirianni not exceed expectations, because our expectations for him are scream at people in your own fan base and make some egregious game management calls. So, we would prefer that he keep the status quo.
I would say one thing, like the Eagles, if it's
one more Sirianni aside, Mark, and then I'll throw it back to you. There's a piece, I think, in the Ringer this week about here's a timeline of Nick Sirianni, why you love him, why you hate him, and all that. The Nick Sirianni that's been more buttoned up the last 5 weeks, I've been bored by this Nick Sirianni. I want him
This is how he gets you.
Yeah, like maybe because I've been predicting for so long that he's going to have this blow up at some point in the playoffs, and maybe it happens in the Super Bowl, which would be f***ing amazing. But at the same time, he has smartly receded to the background during the postseason in terms of giving people reasons to bring more scrutiny onto the team that they don't need right now and more work for Dom to do. So, Nick, I know it's in you. I know all you want to do is scream at the stands and fight with people on the sidelines and punch Dom in the face. I know all that, but you're being smart about it. So respect to you.
Did Conor tell you guys that he's actively stalking Big Dom?
I believe it. I mean, he wrote a whole piece about Italian-American culture in the Philadelphia Eagles.
You're on this beat.
Dom is the center of the universe in that regard.
Magnifico of Conor's real assignment this week.
I think what it is I just kind of wanted to present it to him. That's it. I wish I had it in like a hard
big
copy.
Plate of veal parmesan.
Yeah, just like I did this for you, and just.
Were you able to do that?
Not yet, but I'm working on it.
More time.
We ate it. I don't know if we can say this. Probably can say this. I ate at the same place as the Eagles again last night.
Oh shit!
So
was Dom there?
2 in a row. Yeah.
Did you say hi?
No.
Did you go? Did you go cut a lock of his hair?
It would be amazing.
He's like me. I don't know if we.
Does he have hair? We don't know. Does he have hair?
Dom's bald, right?
Flip the cap.
He's a full bald.
Is he a hat fisher?
I've never really seen him without a hat. I don't think.
Do you know how dangerous it would be to flip the cap and find out? I'd wake up in a hospital. This
You'd be
tuberculosis
lucky.
hospital.
Yeah,
Wake up in a morgue.
If you made a cute noise while you did it, like boop.
There's something really funny about Conor rolling up to the Eagles front office table and coach's table with his phone out and being like, check out this story. Just like scrolling and hoping Dom reads it. It's like the whole line by line. Dog.
Yes.
Well, I promised to get it back to you. Justin, stay out of it.
That ship has sailed. That ship is like in outside of Italy at this point. So.
I just wanted to say quickly, I did a Google search of Big Dom, and I'm pages deep in the scroll, and I have not seen a picture of him without a hat. So.
Oh,
right.
My people.
It's like an action
This is
figure.
the first time Jourdan has been on
This is
Heat
what
the
my
Call
forehead looks like, guys.
here's
with
one.
one hat on. And
This is my forehead.
It's almost, it's like that move when someone that's always worn glasses, as long as you know him, all of a sudden gets contacts, and you're just like, you aren't a human anymore, you're a different person. That's what's happening.
Yeah, but how do we know that's,
We found a photo of Dom looking like
but
he
also-
just got kicked out of Rutgers for fighting at the bar.
There's some hair
20
though.
years old.
That is not new.
That is not Dom. Mark,
What?
I throw it to you.
I think you're a little low on the Eagles in the sense that you're kind of waiting for that, like some of the older games from this season. Like since week 5, Hurts has like 33 touchdowns and 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been on fire. And like, I think I'm trusting that what we saw against Washington is like, here's our potential, and it happened a fortnight ago. Like that can happen again. Can it happen against
No,
the
it
Chiefs?
absolutely can. I absolutely am not like.
I don't think there's just like a devil around the corner that's like going to take them back to week 4 when they were figuring out.
It's
who they
not
were.
week 4 though. I guess that's my point. Like the divisional round game. Remember our conversations we were having about how they handled that and how that game almost slipped away against the Rams. Jourdan, you were there for it. Like that game, that was right on the bleeding edge of them having one of the great collapses at the end of the game. They held on by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, and Dan, I think you make a good point too about how this is not necessarily. I mean, this is such a well-coached team that they actually are not at all the same team. That the Chiefs are not the same team at all that they were to start the beginning of the year. We saw them as like this sort of like van that was old, that was sort of like starting and stopping, going down the street, and just you feel the exhaust and you hear pops every once in a while, and you're just like, is that thing gonna break
It's
down?
like the 2016 TNC on a road trip.
Well, I'm glad you said it. I've been worried, Conor. So just
I took
gonna
it
leave
down
that.
here. It's parked right outside. It's fine. Yeah, for now.
Just gonna.
If
That's
that's
actually where
the case, it's on cinder blocks right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to tell you.
and
Good chance.
that's also where Conor's sleeping every day. So,
Exactly.
but,
Yeah, can I use the shower here, by the way?
Absolutely. Anytime, buddy.
But I think that this is an interesting thing because you've seen them stacking little pieces together, little ideas. Andy Reid has sort of almost been like using part of the season as his science experiment. We've talked about like these theories that we have before on this show about how he uses like the first half of the season as like an entire setup for the second half of the season. Kind of have to do that when you've got a roster with some of your key players are getting kind of old. And so but they've added elements to this offense. They've kind of overhauled some of their special teams. They actually compete on kick returns now, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but the young receiver and kick and punt returner who basically took a roster spot from one of the former Super Bowl team rostered players, is now returning and setting Patrick Mahomes up in good spots. They've got Hollywood Brown back. They've increased their scoring average because they're getting Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown in different dynamic and multi-dimensional ways in the passing game. They actually have a threat of an explosive passing game now. And I just go back to thinking like how things change over the course of a season. We weren't laughing because we're nice, but everyone was laughing. Well, some of us are nice. Yeah. And everyone was laughing over that clip of Xavier Worthy just getting like stoned in man coverage in a practice that meant nothing in training camp.
Oh, right.
Well, now he's basically unguardable, and I know Justin's enjoying watching every snap of that. What is it? Hook 'em? Hook 'em horns?
Hook all the horns.
I said the wrong one earlier. My bad.
Not horns up.
My bad.
Horns. Okay.
But it's interesting because this is not the same Chiefs team. They're totally different.
Hold the thought on the Chiefs. Okay. Last thoughts on the Eagles, how they win the game before we take a break and spin to the Chiefs formally. Structure.
Formally. Organization.
Yes.
Saquon Barkley, we all know it's his birthday. He's 30 yards short of like the regular season and postseason single year record. I think it happens on the first play. Like I think if you're the Eagles,
is that your fearless prediction?
No,
Spoiler alert.
It's attached to it. But come out and be dominant early. Take the Chiefs, like we talked about, out of what they want to do. If you can puncture the defense early and get up 14-0, and then this team creates turnovers. And that's the Chiefs' magic, like special side. Although Mahomes has had a couple weird turnovers in the Super Bowl, like create problems, create a turnover. I know that's simple, but just like get up early and grind and destroy, because I think they want to power run and kill people, and that includes Jalen Hurts on the ground. And just like take the Chiefs out of this in a physical way.
And I'd be remiss not to mention what I think is the Eagles' biggest advantage here, which is they have, led by Jalen Carter, this ability to blow up a Chiefs offensive line that's vulnerable. And that's the only time Mahomes got beat in the Super Bowl. It was when the line couldn't hold up, and it f***ed their entire game plan up. If that happens again, and it can, the Chiefs are going down, and the three-peat, Pat Riley just got $14, will be kaput. But there's so much of the game, I think, that rides on, can this KC protection hold up? Because to fix the left tackle problem, they had to weaken – Frank Caliendo's playing guard.
Mike Caliendo.
No, it's Frank.
Okay.
It's Frank. Frank Caliendo's at guard. You have Tooney doing his best on left tackle. Like you have Jourdan Taylor holding and lining up in the wrong spot half the time. Like this could blow up for Kansas City in that way, the same way it did 4 years ago.
And we see Patrick Mahomes do these magic things in the margins and win in these little moments, right, that just turn things completely. The Eagles have 4 of those guys up front that do that. They win. They change games completely. They blow up games completely. Jalen Carter has been doing this frequently throughout the season, and particularly in the postseason. And they've got guys all around them that do make those momentum swinging plays in the same way that we've just gotten so used to Mahomes doing it. Well, they can pull it right back.
I go to my guy Vic, and I'll give him the closing word on this for the Eagles.
Oh, are we fighting over Vic now?
Well, I mean, I was born closer to him, Scranton,
Scranton in Arizona, there's a big difference. Do you agree?
One of you has to live with Vic in an apartment for a year.
It's about you're good. You got it.
I'm just picturing, by the way,
all good. You
Jourdan
got it.
staring at the ceiling, thinking about how Conor won the tiebreaker and who loves Vic more because of the Scranton geographical connection. And I'm sorry that's a possibility for you.
I'm a little heartbroken. I should have moved, when I had the chance.
What has growing up in that area ever gotten me except this? So I need this one. I need this one thing.
This is rich. This is a rich victory for you.
Yeah, I think this is like I've been waiting my whole life for this. Like The Office didn't.
I'm not quite sure what you're getting.
Well, yeah.
We might have to separate Jourdan and Conor now, Mark. You might have to sit in between them for the balance of the program.
No, he just can feel like when I feel something, everyone else feels it.
Right.
That's
it
one
radiates,
of my horrible qualities. And so he's just gonna feel grief like in waves off my body. You're gonna start to see his right shoulder sinking a little bit.
I'm just gonna get closer and closer to Mark throughout the.
You're like a reverse empath.
I'll just go for myself.
No. Like Conor's arm eventually. The radiation in his arm decays, or he just falls off at the end of the show.
He's gonna be like lose this part of his beard. There'll be like 2 patches in it.
It's gone.
But to give Vic the final word, someone asked him about this game and his hopes for it, and he said, and I quote, "I hope we play good, and we'll see what happens from there."
The best. And that's why he's Fangio. Hey, Pivot, just 3 days until the big game. Can you believe it? Wait, in the copy that you sent me, Justin, there's no question mark. So it's, can you believe it?
It doesn't. It's reader interpretation.
So I'll go, can you believe it?
It's like, I think we can believe it.
That was nice.
And Underdog is giving out a big game, no sweat token to all you, exclamation point, to all users. Put together a pick'em entry for the big game, maximum $10. And if your entry loses, your entry fee is refunded in bonus credit. If you or your friends haven't joined Underdog yet, start playing today. Sign up with the code HTC. And new users can receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash or refer a friend and get $50 in bonus cash for yourself for our U.S. audience only.
Terry!
All right. Here we go. So that's the Eagles side. Now the Chiefs side. Sessdog. How do the Kansas City Chiefs three-peat? $14, Pat Riley.
I think what we've seen from the Chiefs, especially against Buffalo, where Mahomes, they just play their game. They effectively, I think, spread the ball out to 8 or 9 different people. It's what we've talked about, a lot of yards after the catch. But then you got like Xavier Worthy was making plays downfield. Juju Smith-Schuster was making plays downfield. Can you do that against this offense? And can you, I think, create 11, 12, 13 play drives? Because you're going to have to. You're going to have to, and you're going to have to play what they've done before, which is mistake-free, and you own each quarter's time of possession. You keep the Eagles off the field. You prevent, like, the typical Eagles turnover, and you don't let the Eagles go total explosive early. Like, it's just kind of be what you are. Like, they're not flashy. They're not a lot of fun to watch. That hasn't changed. But they are efficient, effective, and they're now using 4 or 5 different players that they weren't back in September.
35 rushing attempts against the Bills. And that Patrick Mahomes stat line, Conor, you kind of gotten used to it now. 18 to 26, 245, a touchdown, clean play, and then it's kind of I think the amazing thing about Mahomes, right, is like he broke onto the scene as this dynamo that was setting passing records and bombing downfield to Tyreek. And now he is like this master of the game plan. And when it's in scheme with Andy Reid's setup and Nagy, like they could beat you, but then when you have to go off platform, he never seems to make the wrong decision, and I feel like I'm watching the smartest quarterback since Peyton Manning, or maybe even the smartest quarterback ever. The way the game is just all in front of him, and that's part of, again, how do the Chiefs always win these games? It's not just because the refs are in their back pocket or they're lucky. It's like you have this guy at the center of everything that will always seem to make the right decision in the highest crucible moments of the season.
But also within that context, right? Because, I mean, even the last game against the Eagles, the Super Bowl game, was a narrow victory. And to me, the path for the Chiefs is, what's your thing that you're going to come out with that the Eagles haven't seen yet? And there's been this little surprise thing in each of the last few Super Bowls. I think it was the previous Super Bowl victory against the 49ers, coming out after halftime and basically running like an Alex Smith, Urban Meyer style sprint option package, which, like, who is going to think to prepare for that during the week? And I had this cool story, actually talking to a few coaches before I came over here. The genius of Andy Reid is in the fact that he can look at a play and he'll have guys bring him black and white clips from YouTube, right? And he can look at it and say, okay, this is exactly how I'm going to translate it to my offense. And then they'll show it to the players on Thursday where they'll be like, okay, play 1 in the script. Travis, you're here. And then they'll show him a clip from earlier in the season that's like, this is what the play looks like. Play 8 in the script. Travis, you're here and you're here. This is what the play looks like. And it's like a newsreel from the 1940s. It's like, and it's like, it's like this like trickeration play that's just like baked into the game plan. Somewhere in there, that's going to form the baseline of something that the Eagles, that Fangio haven't seen before, at least on film this season. And while Fangio may be familiar with it, how do you adapt in real time? And it's just those narrow margins. It's enough to produce one good touchdown drive, and that's all you need.
I think of the Kadarius Toney play from the Super Bowl, and that, you know, they talk about Reid having an entire number of pages of plays that are going to be cooked up out of nowhere. And Vic Fangio, like the 0-7 stat versus Mahomes, sure, but like I do wonder if it helps that he's faced Andy Reid and Mahomes this many times.
And
Matt Nagy.
Yeah. And I'll say this, I was the pool reporter for the Chiefs 2 years ago, and so I was the only reporter at practice. You're not really allowed to say what goes on like in real time, but I will say the amount of trick plays, the amount of fascinating stuff that was happening that was just left on the cutting room floor but was possibly within the bounds of the game plan for that week was staggering. And so the fact that they just have this depth of that all, I think that's what is going to blow my mind, you know?
Yeah, I think, and just to go back to circle back on something you said earlier, Conor, because you got to be careful when using the two words Chiefs and script. So I want to explain to the listener a little bit more about, so that is a predetermined, malleable, but predetermined. I always compare it to like a charcuterie board. Like you have a certain amount of ingredients. It's usually your opening drive.
You got the little pickles on it?
Yeah, the little pickles.
Gherkins?
I had one with head cheese
gherkins.
the other day.
Gherkins?
Head cheese?
Yeah.
What is head cheese?
I had it 2 days ago. I ate it. It's the boiled down head of a pig.
No, we talked about this, and then it comes out of a tube or
it's
something?
And then it's cut into like a gelatinous rectangle.
And you ate it?
I ate it.
What did it taste like?
It was
liverwurst.
It was kind of like an oniony tuna salad.
That was, what is that?
Salad.
The retina? That's the onion.
An oniony
flavor?
tuna salad, but if you put the tuna in a blender first.
Once again,
You
Conor,
paid for this?
I worry about you often.
I didn't order it. It came it was like butcher's suggestion, and I think
I was telling him
well, you can't blame the system for a choice you made.
I was telling him when I lived in England when I was very young, right?
Yes.
One of my first.
Wait, you lived in England when you were young?
I know that's not breaking news, but one of my first memories was being in a stroller and going into town.
You remember being?
I swear to God, I remember this. And like I had to confirm this with
This is all legend at this point.
I confirmed it with my parents, but like there was a butcher shop, like an old like British type butcher shop, and in the door like an open like check us out, like there were hooks with the heads of pigs on it. And that's where head cheese comes from.
Isn't it like scientifically proven you don't start to form real consciousness until you're like 5 or 6?
But maybe there's such a startling moment that you come online.
That would have
where
been a
it's just
startling
like,
moment.
Oh, look at this pig! You know, and
I
it's just-
confirmed this with my parents.
All right, bring them in. Here they are.
No, they're not
Ed
here.
and Judy Sessler.
They're not here. Not Judy. Barbara.
Barbs. Ed and Barbs. That would be amazing, by the way.
Well,
and the show just turned it like Conor
Yeah,
and Jourdan
we
had
leave,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, they're gone. And then it's just a Sessler like Barbara Walters like sit down with me moderating it.
Don't need it right now.
We're really worried about you, Mark. That never happened.
That's probably from the transcript.
So a game script
Yeah, right.
is when you have this board of individual ingredients and you're putting these different
the
combinations
pickles on
of
it?
plays
The
together.
gherkins?
The gherkins.
Okay.
And that reminds Conor of this time. No.
Yeah. I want
And
to talk more about head cheese. Go ahead.
and so you and Vic can share that. Lady in the Tramp style, just slurping a retina until your faces touch.
Ah.
Love that. So it basically is a predetermined but malleable and changeable array of plays that you use usually in the first 15 to 20 plays, depending on which coach you are, of a game, usually on offense. Some defensive coaches have done this before, which is fascinating. But you can use that to almost basically, if you can score a touchdown off of it, then you can stay in your A-plus plan, which is what we were talking about with the Chiefs.
Right.
Get Spagnuolo, because this defense really over the years has grown so well to complement and really become its own assertion and its own individual personality within this Chiefs team. So a lot of it is Andy Reid wanting to get Steve Spagnuolo into that A-plus plan. And so when Conor's talking about the script that they're putting together in the Chiefs script, that's what he's talking about, is how do you come out of the game using unscouted looks, using things that break defensive tendencies, using things that scout the way that the defense will cover space, using things that test the way that they'll react to one thing before switching it to a different thing with the same look pre-snap in the later parts of the game. That's what the Chiefs are so good at and have been for so many years, that Andy Reid has been good at even well before he was with the Kansas City Chiefs. When you have a quarterback like Pat Mahomes, you can also make those adjustments and you can change those things from quarter to quarter, not just half to half. If you see the Eagles defense react one way to one thing, you can change that the very next time he has the ball.
The Hollywood Brown being back, it's still a bummer that Rashee Rice is gone.
Yes.
Because that was, it's so, I got to give so much credit to the Chiefs, because I know everybody like hates the Chiefs now. It's still, I can't wrap my head around like the fact that they were able to, Hollywood Brown goes out on the first play of the preseason and is lost for 3 months. And it's like, oh, he was going to open up the passing game for them. And now he's gone. And then it's like, well, they got a Rashee Rice here. And then he has a horrific knee injury. on like an interception where it was Patrick Mahomes' helmet or something that blew out his.
Yeah.
Like when you think about like midway through this Chiefs season, how it's like, well, now what are they going to do? And like Travis Kelce looks old. The fact that they were able to navigate that and get their way through it, and then get to the point where they could put up a 30-burger to beat the Bills in the playoffs. Again, that's why I keep coming back to the coaching advantage I think they have in the 2 weeks, and now that the health. Obviously, they're not getting Rice back till next year, but I'm wondering with the offense if we see any return. And again, this is going to go back to the offensive line question because you have to give Mahomes time to make it happen. What does the surprise that they hit the Eagles with? Is it we're actually going to try to attack downfield, which they just haven't had much success with in the last couple of years? And they, frankly, because of the issues with the offensive line, I think Mahomes has had to have a different strategy with this. Wouldn't surprise me if they had a couple of tricks up their sleeve with Xavier Worthy and maybe Hollywood Brown now a few weeks more removed from the injury.
I feel like a lot of it happens in the red zone. There's a lot of like trickery down there and stuff you haven't seen, and it's looks you haven't seen in a short amount of space. But
I mean like big explosives and not 20-yard explosives.
They're like 31st in
yeah.
explosive plays. So like you're right that I think their wide receiver room now, if it was this way all year, you'd be like, they're fine.
Right.
Yeah.
They're fine. Like they've got a lot of different people they can spread the ball out to, and like Samaje Perine had a huge moment. Like you just don't kind of know who's going to be used. I think part of it is like who are you using, how are you using them, and Vic Fangio's not seen it before.
I think it depends, too, on what Vic shows them, right? I mean, if Vic comes out and again is like, I want this to be an umbrella defense, I want to keep everything in front of me, that's fine. If he wants to break his own tendencies and he wants to go back to something that he was exploring earlier in his career, which I doubt because everyone seems so comfortable and this defense is so young, why would you switch it up? Yeah. I mean, why would you do that on the fly? Then you open up the door, I think, for some of these shot plays.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Chiefs, when you look at their season statistics, they're like 27th in explosive pass play rate. Watching, Mark, to your point, watching them for the last 5 games, you're like, well, that's not this team.
They're different.
Yeah, and they're using guys in different ways. And I think a lot of it has to do with Andy Reid over time. I think he's one of the best coaches in getting a feel for what players are capable of over time. And it's a trust factor. He's been public saying, like, in his meetings at the beginning of the season, and I think your guest on yesterday's show,
Pete
Sweeney was talking about this, where he talks about trust. And he says, if you lie to me or if you do this or that, like, he has to trust you. And over time, you see that almost like it's his offense almost unfurls like a fan in a way, like over time. It's just like wrinkle by wrinkle by wrinkle by wrinkle, and all of a sudden it's using every single blade of grass on the field before you even know what happened.
I love that.
Thanks, Dan.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and the wide receiver group again, and the Kelce conversation. So you mentioned Juju Smith-Schuster, Mark, he had an impact. He had 2 for 60, and they were both big plays in that game. So, getting those contributions, and then what version of Kelce shows up, because Kelce was a monster in the divisional game, and then they found a way to negate him a little bit, although I feel like there were times where maybe he was open a few different spots, and they just didn't get him the ball. Like, are we going to get the vintage Kelce game? Do they need a vintage Kelce game to win this game?
I don't know if they absolutely need a vintage because they're not as reliant on him in recent weeks or at times in this season. But over and over, the Super Bowl has been total money for Kelce, and I think that just spiritually they're going to want that to happen.
I just don't think that the Eagles linebackers let tight ends do much against them in general. And this is Zach Bond, who was getting, Defensive Player of the Year buzz throughout the latter part of the season, and one of the Vic Fangio guys that he sort of pulled out of obscurity, and now it's like one of the names that on this football team. The Eagles linebackers are among the best coverage linebackers and shutting down the middle of the field and limiting passing EPA specifically to tight ends in the NFL this season. And that's where they had so much success, particularly against like when they played the Texans, and all they did was funnel everything either short and in front of them or into the middle of the field where the Texans had no players. And so I don't know that you can necessarily do that because so much of this is just about putting that dude where other dude is not. And the Eagles just have so many dudes.
I was just about to say that, again, it's such a different matchup than when they faced off 2 years ago, right? Like they.
Oh my God, Justin.
So many dudes.
Yeah, we're not going to revisit it. So many dudes.
The Eagles, the Chiefs.
Oh my God, what a ride!
Stupid. The Eagles. The difference, or the added challenge here for the Chiefs is, Kelce is 2 years older. Hopkins was a nice addition, but he's been banged up in the back half of the year. Hollywood Brown has never really gotten his sea legs yet. You've had, it's been a pretty solid rookie season at times for Worthy, but he didn't hit the ground and become a super stud. Like, then you look at the Eagles, their defense now compared, especially last year, but they have just playmakers at every level. And do the Chiefs have the ability to find ways to avoid the guys at every level of that defense, whether it's Carter or Bond or the rookie corners, like, to not screw up their season?
But here's the thing. I mean, these guys are still so incredibly young. I mean, DeJean and Quinion Mitchell. Zach Bond has been playing off-ball linebacker for 16 games. Vic Fangio was saying that earlier in the week, where when I looked at his tape, there were only 4 plays that I saw where he was doing the actions and the movements of an off-ball inside linebacker. And then we transitioned him to that position after being a primary edge rusher.
Was this during your private dinner that you two had together?
Scrat nights.
Can I have all the
talk about it?
Can I have all the details?
You can't. You're not from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Arizonans need not apply.
Yeah, it's sort of an omerta thing. You guys wouldn't understand. But in order to, there is a lot of meat on that bone, right? Where it's like there's just stuff that Zach Bond hasn't seen, and no matter how sage the man is that's explaining this to you, or Cooper DeJean or Quinion Mitchell, like DeAndre Hopkins has a library of experience to the point where, when he came to Kansas City, like, he changed some of the ways that the Chiefs practiced and that they did stuff offensively. Like, he was teaching people stuff. So do we think that comes into play at some point during this game? The youth and the inexperience is fun and it's exciting, but much like the Commanders, there's a point where it breaks a little bit on you, right? And there's a part where it falls apart.
It could crumble if you get Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith going absolutely nuts. Like, that's the thing. I just like you could. There are little weaknesses on left guard, obviously, for the Chiefs' offensive line. Like, can he take over a game? Because Jalen Carter is going to play every snap and going to have a chance to make an impact here. And that's like, Mahomes have to get the ball out very quick. But he's good at that. He's been great at that all year.
All right, before we move on, any last thoughts about how the Chiefs win the football game? Rodrigue, J-Rod, they call her.
They don't.
Okay, sorry. It's got a little bit of heat to it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying like you. I'm not. Sometimes you don't get to pick your own nickname. Like, I've thrown out 17 to the public over the years. Some stick, some don't. I feel like J-Rod, there's a little bit of momentum to it.
I feel like all the nicknames you picked for yourself have stuck because you use them so frequently.
Perhaps I'm a bad example.
You're one of the few people who have been able to pull that off. Yeah.
It's taken a lot of work.
7 or 8 times.
Yeah, a lot of work. But Jourdan Rodrigue, I'll work on another nickname by the end of the show. Go ahead. Chiefs win. How?
No, I'm scared. I mean, honestly, the Chiefs win because I think that they keep it simple and they do things that really could be effective against, I think, the way that Vic Fangio will continue to play this defense that's worked all season. And I think utilizing Patrick Mahomes in the same way he's just killed these teams in the postseason year after year after year, as a scrambler, as somebody who picks up these yards on the ground, and nobody almost, when you watch him throw the ball, when you watch him move and kind of the dad bod of it all, like you don't expect that he's just going to cut and run and pick up these first downs. But that absolutely made the difference. The first time these two teams played in the Super Bowl, that was one of those little details that ended up meaning so much to the outcome of the game. And the Chiefs just live in those little details, whether it's that or something we haven't even thought of yet.
This is going to be the most D-level Moose Johnson thing, but I mean it at the heart of my core. Don't turn the ball over. The Chiefs win if they don't turn the ball over and they hand the Eagles like 2 extra possessions to drain clock and to keep the ball away from Patrick Mahomes. I really think it's that simple. The Eagles have lived. What was their recovered fumble rate in this postseason is something like 80%. It's bonkers. And that's a massive part of why this has happened to the way that it has.
That ended the game quickly against Washington. Now, I'm with you. And the Chiefs don't do that. For me, it's just that you've got Andy Reid and a quarterback that, other teams are switching OCs every 2 years. Coaches are coming and going. They just build this relationship where, and so many of the players on this team either are hardened veterans who have been around the block or have been in this position late in Super Bowls multiple times in the last five years. And it's like, that matters. Like when we watch dynasties, they get into a fix and they find their way out of it. And I kind of just feel like no matter what the challenge is, the Chiefs are like, well, we don't care what the challenge is. We're going to be there in the final 3 minutes, and we've got the most locked-down quarterback and head coach relationship in the last 20 years.
And we've seen it so many times, including in Super Bowls against the Eagles. Even if, like we were talking about, how did the Eagles win? Get out to a lead, like change the script up. They always find their way out, unless it's that bubble year, COVID year, which I don't even know if it existed in reality. Like, they always find their way out. So even if the Eagles get out to a fast start, I imagine the Chiefs would find their way back in the game. But I don't know. Like, how do they win? Andy and Spags given 2 weeks. That's, I think, the same way in the old days I'd think about Parcells and Belichick get 2 weeks.
Right.
Or, Belichick and, Josh McDaniels get 2 weeks. Like, that's how they win. Let's take a break. We get back. Fearless predictions, game predictions, and something more. Stay right here.
The best app for your big game party is on your phone. That's right, you and all your friends, if you have friends, could be feasting on Underdog. Ride together on stats like passing yards, first touchdowns, interceptions, and so much more. If you or your friends haven't joined Underdog yet, start playing today. Sign up with the code HTC, and new users can receive up to $1,000 in bonus cash, or refer a friend and get $50 in bonus cash for yourself for our U.S. audience only.
Welcome to a very special edition of Walken with Giants. My auditory love letter to pro football's great Tiffany franchise, the New York Giants.
What an honor. What an honor it is, Mark, for us to be on a very special edition of Walken with Giants. Christopher Walken's ongoing love letter to his favorite pro football team on what is such a important day, I would imagine, for Christopher Walken. We've known for a long time who his favorite player of all time is.
Absolutely. We're close to him, friend of the show, to say the least. And yes, he is fascinated with one Giants hero of old, and that's basically what the show is always about.
Yeah, we referred to, of course, Elijah Manning, and he is one of the finalists for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. As we tape this, and when you hear it, it might already be out there. He is one of the finalists. We find out at NFL Honors, which is being taped tonight, whether Eli makes the cut. And now joining us, and this is such an honor to have him actually in person. Usually we just play a clip from his podcast that we're just a big fan of. Here he is on the show for the first time. The great Christopher Walken, Academy Award winner and just an icon of Hollywood. What's up, Chris?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you,
yes,
Chris.
sure.
Am I coming through?
Yes, Christopher Walken. Take us through where you're at right now. I'm sure the butterflies are significant.
There's a collection of letters. Some would call it a word. But it's more than a word. It's a feeling. It's creepy crawlies going down your back. It's the chill in the dead of night. The word. Anticipation. Of greatness. Of the announcement of one man. A myth. A legend, some would say. Eli Manning. Becoming vaulted into that Hall of Heroes, the Football Hall of Fame. It's going to happen. Let's go.
I think it's fair to ask Mark and Conor, your level of is there any scenario? Because there's some people out there, Chris, that think that Eli's going to have to wait. I mean, is that something you even entertain as a thought, that Eli might have to wait for his enshrinement and wear the gold jacket in Canton?
Put your head in an oven. Turn it all the way up. You don't say things like that in my presence, young man.
I'm sorry, Christopher. I'm sorry.
There's no chance. We all know what's happening. You can sense it. Walk outside right now. Everyone's talking about it. From New York to San Francisco, Eli Manning's name is on the tip of tongues.
Yeah, I mean,
Hall of Fame.
I would say that there's a logical reason to think that he might, like a lot of good players, great players, have to wait for another year potentially. But I guess you got your hand on the bead, Christopher. But are you open to the idea that the world could work a little differently?
Yeah, and we just got to say it.
Yeah.
Here on Walken with Giants, and again, it's an honor to be on this program with you, Mr. Walken. He was a 500 quarterback in the regular season. 2 amazing Super Bowl runs beating Brady and Belichick. Conor, I know you covered some of these games, and that carries a lot of weight. But some people say he was a bit of a compiler and not a quarterback that performed at the highest levels within his positional group for many of the years of his career. This Mr. Walken, this is just devil's advocate, but is it possible that Eli Manning was a largely average quarterback who had special moments?
Largely average. That's a great way to put it. He was so largely average. Some people might want to say hugely average, abovely average. I like the cut of your jib. You're giving him his props. I can dig it.
All right. Anything else, guys, that before we end this particular very special episode on the precipice, potentially Eli Manning in the Hall of Fame?
Was he in the grasp, Christopher? I guess is what I've
Super Bowl
always wanted to know.
42,
Yeah.
Patriots, they have 18-0, 19-0 right in front of them. Should they have blown that play dead? Very good question, Conor. Mr. Walken?
There was no grasp. The only grasp that Eli was in the hands of God. God knew how that play was going to end. God wanted it to happen the way it did. The ball soared through the air, landed in the tippy tips of that man's fingers, then clutched to the helmet. We all saw it. Don't deny divine intervention, my friends. Don't deny this man his place in the hall. Walking out.
Unbelievable. Thank you very much to
I'm still
Christopher
here.
Walken.
I'm not out yet.
We're going to have to play out like at the Oscars.
Don't. Wait, I have one more thing to say.
Real quick.
I'm gone. Goodbye.
Okay, there he goes. Christopher Walken, Walken with Giants. Thank you so much, and we'll see what happens with Eli Manning. Well, there you go. That was a good app. I thought it was a good app of Walken with the Giants, and again, just to be a part of that, obviously Mr. Walken is tremendously confident in Eli, and almost, Mark, a little bit scared about what happens if it doesn't go that way.
Yeah, almost a one-trick pony is in his opinions. They don't seem to waver. But I'm glad that we got the episode. It was a rich episode, probably the most information news-packed one we've gotten.
Jordan, think about this: we get Luka Doncic on the Tuesday show, and now Christopher Walken, icon of the silver screen.
Do you know what?
On Thursday show.
It's amazing. First of all, I got an autograph as he was leaving. But
which is crazy because it was a phoner, but yeah.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
he skywrote it to me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Talk your way out of that one.
Do you know, it is interesting, though, because I saw someone who looked remarkably like Christopher Walken actually getting into a Chrysler Town and Country out front. Shit. I don't know. Where was the call coming from? Do we think it was coming from there?
Calling from inside the house.
And also, do we think he's going to be okay if he drives away in that thing?
I don't know.
That's speculative.
Well, that's a lot of different dangers involved with the 16 TNC, which we'll stick a pin in that. But I'm trying to get Conor to stop thinking about the TNC, if you know what I mean.
You definitely are.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get Conor to sign Vic Fangio over to me. So.
I mean, it'll be easy if I'm dead in that horrible car. So.
Jourdan cuts the brakes so she'd be closer hypothetically to Vic Fangio.
She may not even have to based on what we know about it. So, yeah.
All right, let's get into it. It is our great regret, although we had no control over it. Money Mike Dugar, we wish he was sitting with us right now. He's been doing every Thursday show with us all season and doing great work. Mike, who, of course, covers the Seahawks for the Athletic, and he also covers the Seahawks for the Sacramento Athletics of Major League Baseball. Mike is on a guy trip vacation right now, but he was nice enough to send in his Greg Olson.
What's your name? G-Reg. What you do? Drop my drawers and let us see my third leg. Chilling on the 7th floor. I gotta let these chickens know Big Greg is in the house and I finna make these hoes.
The Money Mike Greg Olson 3-leg parlay for Super Bowl 59. Everybody, let's get rich. Hit it, Money Mike.
This week's Money Mike three-legged parlay brought to you by
That
G-Ray
voice.
from
What
the
a voice.
7th Floor Boys. It's all about the year of the running back. We're going with Saquon Barkley. On all things Super Bowl Sunday, we're going with Saquon Barkley, anytime touchdown. Saquon Barkley over total rushing and receiving yards. I like it at 120, but if some places are only offering about 130 or 129.5, that's fine as well. And we're going to top it off with Saquon Barkley, MVP of the game. Those are our 3 legs. Now, some places might not let you add the Super Bowl MVP. If that's fine, if that happens, go ahead and swap that out. Just add Saquon Barkley at least 2+ receptions instead. But still take that Saquon MVP as well, maybe on a separate ticket, because he's going to be the guy in New Orleans on Sunday. Let's go get this money.
Wow.
That was so nice. I like the end, the tagline.
Yeah, I like the tagline.
Yeah.
And he spoke with as much confidence about Saquon basically being the hero of this game and getting people rich as Christopher Walken spoke of Eli Manning's chance of getting into Canton. So I've never heard Mike be more confident
No,
about...
I think we should send him to island vacations with other men more often. Like, that would be, like, he did a wonderful job there.
I mean, I feel like you're framing the vacation in a different way than perhaps Michael Sean Dugar would like you to, but...
Well, I think it is a guy's vacation. Is that correct? So...
Yeah, I mean, sure. I'm just saying, like, the way you phrase it.
I'm willing to say I know nothing.
All right. There's the 3-leg parlay. Let's get into our fearless prediction. Super Bowl 59. Sessler, get us going.
All right. I really like what Mike, where he was going there with all those, because my fearless prediction, and I also think that Saquon will be the MVP, but my prediction is that he will cross 200 yards on the ground.
And I think only one run. I think Timmy Smith,
I believe, of Washington.
In 22, the Doug Williams game. Everybody's obviously...
87. But
what?
The 87 season.
Yes. What'd I say?
22?
Super Bowl 22, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying, like, 2022.
Got your ass.
It didn't happen 3 years ago.
You must leave the house.
We're both right.
I'm probably wrong. But anyway, the Doug Williams game, like everybody talks about Doug, and rightfully so, they had this guy that nobody even knew ran for 200 yards. Marcus Allen also had a historic Super Bowl game back in around 83, I believe. So Saquon joins the ranks there. That's a good one. That's sound, Conor. Fearless prediction.
It is.
Yes, Justin.
Sorry, before we move off Mark's fearless prediction there.
Yes, Justin.
Do you know who has the record for most yards from scrimmage in a Super Bowl? And do you know what that number is? Trivia.
Is it Jerry Rice?
It's Jerry Rice with 220 yards. If you think Saquon's going over 200 rushing, he probably catches a few passes.
I like where he's going.
Is Saquon going to break the record for
Jerry
scrimmage
record.
yards in a Super Bowl?
I believe I'm in last place in fearless predictions.
We are tied for last. I should.
Let's go for that.
Thank you. And by the way, it's the most Mark thing ever, and I know exactly what's going to happen now, is that he will go for over 200 yards, but he will then also not beat the Jerry Rice record, so he'll lose his prediction.
Well, he'd have to wait. So I said 200 yards rushing.
What's up, James? James Palmer. He's got a veggie burrito and a coffee just dropping
Working
by.
hard over there.
Underdog Manor.
You know what it is?
But you know what's going to happen? That's exactly how
But
it's
he'd
gonna
only
happen.
need 20 yards through the air. So I like the concept of this.
Well, not even. He could go for 221 on the ground or 220 on the ground.
Yeah.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But I'm saying if
207 rushing, he only needs 13.
It's happening.
Okay.
Love it. And yes, Dan, did you want to set up?
No, I should set it up the stakes of Fearless Prediction. We've been doing this all season long. Conor, I know you filled in one of the weeks and helped out with Mark. But just so you know,
I think you got mine right.
Yeah, I did.
what are the standings going into this?
The standings are Jourdan currently sits in first place at 9-11 record.
Ooh,
I don't know
dicey.
if we.
The irony is that Mark and I have had 9-11 level picks all season.
Yeah.
We're way behind her in the standings.
not ironic.
Yeah.
Also, don't do the math. We haven't done 20 fearless predictions, but we did a double point week.
Well, nobody cares. Yeah,
Mike
go on.
is 8-12.
So
right
one game behind, right?
I am next at 7-13, still within striking distance.
Okay, we could stop there.
Mark and Dan are tied with an absolutely abysmal, unfathomably bad record of 3-17. 3 right all season long.
Follow the Heed the Call podcast for all the expert analysis of the NFL. Combined record 6-34. Yes. So here, and a rule change. Because it's the Super Bowl, we are doubling up everything here. So this fearless prediction is worth double, which means that if Mike gets his fearless prediction and Jourdan does not, they finish tied. The tiebreaker is Super Bowl 59 fearless prediction. So Mike would win. If both Mike and pinch yourself, everybody. If Mike and Jourdan both fall short with their predictions, but the Gravedigger hits his, he moves up and ties them in the standings. And again, the tiebreaker is the Super Bowl, so Justin can win it. And then there's Zuzzer and the Cess Dog, who finishes in the basement.
What do they have to do?
What do you mean?
What is the last place person should have some sort of punishment or something?
Okay.
Why am I suggesting that?
Yeah, well.
Only you know the answer to that question,
Well,
Mark.
get back to us on that. All right, with all the stakes set, did you cook one up, Conor, just for fun?
Well, I cooked up 2, and if I get both of them right, then I win.
Yes, that is true. If Conor,
yeah.
that is such a great call. If Conor hits his, it's worth it's worth 12 picks, and that would vault him into all alone in first place. So, but you have to hit both.
Let's make it 6 each, so he can at least beat you guys somehow if he only goes 1
Shut
for 2.
up, Justin. All right,
All right, first one. There is not going to be, and there has been at almost every Super Bowl, a streaker. There will not be a streaker this year. That is one of my bold predictions.
Nude human running on the field.
A nude human running on the field. And do you want to know why?
Security is outrageous here in New
This
Orleans.
is the first time we have a sitting president attending a Super Bowl. Security is absolutely batshit.
Well, it feels like he would grease
nuts.
the skids for that. But wait, you're saying fully naked or like partially naked?
Well,
you could be in your underwear. We'll allow it. We'll allow it if somebody did it. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm saying that no errant human will make it on the field and then off the field.
You're a sex addiction? You got a problem with sex?
By the way, I feel like
addicted to sex?
How is this the first time a president's going to a Super Bowl? That would be like 50% of the reason I would want to be president, to go potentially 8 years in a row. That'd be cool, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably got some other stuff he's got to tend to, but my second one is going to be a complete inverse of my friend Mark and my friend Money Mike. I think that Saquon Barkley is going to be outgained by all the other running backs on the Eagles roster. However, he is going to get widely praised in postgame following an Eagles victory because of his pass protection.
His blocking. Unbelievable. He's an all-around running back, and Conor will seize on that with his prediction.
And that is a secret Will Shipley praise take, isn't it? We know you love Will Shipley.
Okay, and I think he deserves obviously some time to celebrate on his own without anybody taking the time from him.
Just for once.
One of your worst takes of the year.
Conor says crazy things.
On his birthday.
It completes the
Conor just says crazy stuff.
It completes the Saquon narrative, right? Because he gave up the record at the beginning of the season, and now he's sacrificing himself to pass block. And
unbelievable.
Yeah, yep, that's how it's going to happen.
All right, J-Rod.
Love when you call me that.
Sorry. Ms. Rodrigue.
Jay Rizzy.
So I think that specifically Saquon Barkley will specifically be held to under 100 rushing yards, but will still win most valuable player.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Specifically rushing yards.
He's doing something through the air then.
I will go. I'm starting to get an idea of where you guys are going with your game picks. I will go with the return, as I alluded to earlier in the program, the return of the big play Chiefs offense. They have a 50-plus yard touchdown reception. If you want me to narrow it down to who gets it, it would be either Hollywood Brown. It'd be Hollywood Brown.
You don't have to do that. You're already 3-17.
Yeah, you might as well have submitted one. No.
I got a better chance at winning.
According to Mark, though, there's there
avoiding
are stakes.
Punishment. Yeah.
There's a punishment that we haven't figured. Maybe you have to eat the
head cheese with Conor.
You have to eat head cheese with me.
That's I'd leave the country for that.
Anyway, big play. 50 yards. The rookie wide receiver, Hollywood, gets it. And let's toss it to – oh, wait. Justin's like, what about me? Justin, I apologize. Your fearless prediction.
Oh, I would have waited till after Mike's to complain about not being called on. But my fearless prediction. So in the postseason, with under a minute left and needing a game-tying or winning score in NFL history, postseason offenses have succeeded 40% of the time. Patrick Mahomes is a perfect 7 for 7 on such drives, the only quarterback to be perfect.
Nice stat.
This stat has been floating around. I didn't research it or come up with it.
You didn't have to. You can edit that. Take it
out. My prediction is that Patrick Mahomes becomes 7 for 8.
Oh! Okay. Wow. And now to Money Mike's prediction.
So wait, does the setup have to be that he actually must have the opportunity to
with the ball?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Under a minute left, needing a game tying or winning score, and he will fail for the first time ever.
I was just seeking clarity because the stakes are actually high for us,
Right,
Justin.
right,
so
right.
yeah.
That felt like another dig. The digs are just.
Well, this has gotten competitive.
It's the big dig here.
Yeah, this has gotten rough.
All right, Money Mike.
My fearless prediction to cap off the season is that the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl will have at least 2 plays of 50-plus yards. Meanwhile, the Kansas City Chiefs will not have any plays more than 25 yards.
Ooh!
Awesome.
I like that one. He always has such good ones.
This is such a lock-off situation here between Jordan's prediction, Connor's prediction, Mark and Mike's prediction, Dan's prediction.
Pinch ourselves.
It's all over the place.
Yeah, and we're going to go fight in the front yard after this, like Mark's 2 aunts that he kept bringing up this year.
Don't bring those aunts.
All right.
Not here.
Before we say goodbye, short and sweet. Don't over-explain it. Jordan.
Don't over-explain.
Final score, MVP. Go ahead, Jay.
24-21 Eagles. Saquon's the MVP.
All right. Conor.
31-28 Eagles. Jalen Hurts is the MVP.
Eagles 27, Chiefs 23, MVP Saquon Barkley.
Eagles 20.
Oh, God damn it. The Chiefs are going to win this game by 2 touchdowns. Sorry, Justin.
Yeah, I want to pick the Chiefs still, but
short and sweet, producer.
It goes against
Jesus.
my prediction. So anyway, Eagles 35, Chiefs 31. And the MVP is A.J. Brown for my, whatever.
Cool.
Did you bet on this game again, you asshole?
I did not bet on this game, but I will be building an underdog pick'em with my no sweat token.
Okay, good idea. Good idea.
How did Justin just go on for 4 minutes right
I
there?
don't know. I do not know. Nobody to pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. That is hilarious. I will pick the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. 28-23. Patrick Mahomes once again wins MVP. I mean, why do you guys always fall? You always fall into this trap. You especially. You've never picked the Chiefs to win a Super Bowl.
It's foreboding what just happened in
Yeah.
terms of the lopsided love for the Eagles. But we knew you weren't going to pick them.
No, I have to stay true to my roots for this show. And thank you. I got to say thank you to everybody here at Underdog Manor that's helped us out this week. The whole crew has been so helpful to us as we've done these shows. We're going to do obviously one more show back in LA, and that will be the Super Bowl show, and we can't wait for that. But we just want to thank the entire Underdog crew for helping us out so much. Colin, Aaron, Dean, John, Summer, like you guys have been so great. Katie, working behind the scenes for Underdog, has been a warrior for us. James Palmer for helping us out throughout the week. Of course, Conor and Jordan. Did I miss anybody?
They've been awesome. Like, and we roll out of bed and they're already setting stuff up, and we wouldn't be having this. We would be doing them on like our phones, sitting on a couch or on the lawn.
You mentioned Jason
Zumwalt.
Yeah,
Jason Zumwalt. And yes, if you are in the New Orleans area, tonight we're doing our live show from Sports Drink with special guests, including the 2 people sitting with us right here, and Jason Zumwalt. So make sure if you are at the show to say hi to us, and we're looking forward to that. We are now going to disappear and go explore New Orleans one more night. Mark.
What could happen?
Anything could happen. All right. Enjoy the game, everybody. Until next time, heed the call.